I'm Allie. Join me as I show you how to make this December subscription project, the Infinite Pearl Bracelet. It uses a beautiful infinite clasp with some rows of right angle weave, and you will be a master. And you can do it in lots of different colors too. If you do want to subscribe or see all the materials, go ahead and look below the video. In the description of the video, hit that show more button, and that'll get you links to get back to our website so you can get this as well as 2 other fun projects. Remember also, gather up your bead on it board, gather up all your materials, get comfy, and get ready to get started because this one's a little bit long. So to begin this project, we are doing a lot of right angle weave, and we're going to be doing multi-row right angle weave using some 8/0 seed beads. I have a stop bead here that I'm going to put on the bottom of some size 6 dragon thread. You can use any bead for this. I like to use one that is not in my project. So this case here, I'm using this bright blue one because I know not to sew back through it by accident. From here, we're going to be doing a 2 drop or picking up 2 beads per side of our right angle weave. Right angle weave is going to be based on 4 sides. I'm currently picking up 8 total seed beads, 2 for each side of the box that I'm creating. Let all of those fall down next to your stop bead. And I'm going to sew through beads 1 and 2, which is going to be the left and the right, beads 3 and 4, which are the top, and beads 5 and 6, which is the right of the box. And then we let our thread and needle exit. So if you look at it here now, this is our right angle unit. The right angle unit has 2 beads to the top, 2 beads to the bottom, 2 beads on the left, 2 beads on the right. We're going to continue building this center row of the right angle unit, needing 2 beads for the bottom, 2 beads for the right, 2 beads for the top. What was the right side of my first box is now going to become the left side of my second box. After adding in those 6 beads, you sew through the 2 right hand most beads, so that right side of the previous box. Once that's added, I'm going to sew through the bottom of my box that I just added. And I'm also going to sew through the right side of the box. I always want my thread and needle exiting through the right side of the box that I'm completing. So there I have the right side of that box ready to go. 1, 2 beads for the top, 1, 2 beads for the right, 1, 2 beads for the bottom. Go into the opposite side of the 2 beads that your thread is currently coming out of. That creates box number 3. And then I'm sewing across the top here, beads, 2 beads there, and I'm sewing down through the beads on the right hand side. And there I have my third box. So you're just going to continue adding a total of 6 beads, 2 for the bottom, 2 for the right, 2 for the top. Sewing down the opposite direction of the thread you're coming out of, building that next box, getting your thread and needle over, whether or not your needle and thread are coming out the top, going through the top or the bottom there. I went through the bottom on this one, and going through the right 2 most beads. Continue on till you have the length of your wrist. And when I say length of your wrist, we're going to be adding some with our nice Potomac here, that pretty infinite clasp. So that's going to add a good 1/2 inch to your bracelet. So you want this to pretty much fit on your wrist. Continue going and adding your first row, and then we'll come back and I'll show you how to add the second row. Once you're on your last right angle weave unit for this center row, I'm going to show you how we are going to go on and create our next row. So just like you're doing normally, kind of finish up, and you're coming out the right hand side of the box, and you're like, oh my goodness, I'm out the right hand side of the box. How am I going to get to create rows 1 and 3? Because we did 2 in the middle here. Well, we're simply going to go in here, sew through the next 2 beads. So we're coming out what is currently, we'll say, the bottom there. And I'm going to flip this because I like beading from left to right. So my thread and needle are coming out the bottom of the right angle unit from units in the row 2. We're going to create row 3 here, and we're going to use 2 seed beads for the right side of the box. We have the top of the box, which was the bottom of the box before it. The bottom, the new bottom, is going to be 15, 8, 15. And then our left side is going to be 2 more 8s. We're going to sew back through the top of the box that our thread was currently coming out of through the opposite side. That gets our next right angle unit there. I'm going to sew down through the right-hand side like we've been doing. Now when I look at the next one here, I need my bottom, 15, 8, 15. I need my right, 2 8s. Then my top is already here and my left side is already there. So I'm going to, after adding those two sides, sew through the now top of the next unit, as well as sew through the left-hand side of this new box. And that creates the next unit. From here, I'm going to sew over. So I'm sewing through the 15, 8, 15 combo and up through the right-hand side. When your thread is coming up through the right-hand side, you can kind of look at it here and say, all right, my top of this next right angle unit is already here. So I'm going to sew through the top. I need to build a right side, 2 8s, and I need to build a bottom, 15, 8, 15. So back through what was the right of the last box through the opposite way, coming up through the top. Go up through the top beads there because I'm getting over to the 2 beads on the right. Once you're out the 2 rightmost beads in this right angle unit, you're just continuing. Coming out the bottom, so I add my next bottom beads, 15, 8, 15. Going to add my next right side. Catch the bottom of the right angle weave above to become the top. Come down through the 2 beads that our thread was originally coming out of. And then once again, get over to the right-hand side through the 15, 8, 15 combo and through the 8s on the right-hand side. And you're just going to continue building like that the whole length of the row 3. And then we're going to flip over and do the same thing on row number 1. Once you're finishing with this bottom row, what we're going to do is kind of spin around and build on the opposite side. Now you will realize that it has a tiny bit of a slight curvature and difference. That's going to kind of create a curve in the design of the bracelet, which we want to happen. Just because there's a size variance with the 15s and the 8 versus 2 8s. Coming in here and finishing up this last right angle weave unit, giving a nice tight pull. I'm going to go through the right angle weave till I get out the opposite side of the right angle weave in the middle. You can see I'm just sewing right along the right angle weave, and I'm actually going to come out right next to that stop bead. Right next to the stop bead here, you're going back to that start of the creating the right angle weave. 2 on the left, bottom, 15, 8, 15, 2 on the right. Sewing back through that bead that your thread is currently coming out of, working our way over down through the 2 on the left-hand side of the box, through the bottom of the box, 15, 8, 15, and out the right side of the box. When I'm out the right side of the box here, I'm also going to go through the bottom of the other right angle weave row and get ready. 2 on the right, 15, 8, 15 for the bottom, up through the side, over the top, down through the side, and there we have that. So I'm just going to keep going now, building in, and I'll have that third row. Again, this will force the middle row just to sit up ever so slightly since the sides are going to be a little bit shorter than the middle. So next up we have our embellishment. And I did just a couple because it's the exact same thing over and over again. But I wanted to be able to show you what it looks like because by the time you add it, it can look a little confusing because we're using the same beads. So each right angle weave unit on the bottom row here, we're coming out of the bottom of the left-hand side of our box. We're adding on to our needle thread 1 15, 1 8, then 3 15s. And we're going to the right side of the box and coming down the right 2 beads. So we're out the bottom left into the top right, and then we add those beads, and they sit right along the side. Now, in your pearl boxes, if you're a subscriber, you have extra pearls too. You can do all pearls on the sides if you want to. You don't have to just do this same exact pattern. Once you have a 15, an 8, and 3 15s on, you're coming out the left side of the box. You're going to go to the top right side of the box and down. And we're going to do that same thing the whole way down this bottom row to embellish it. We'll drop our pearls in the middle, and then we'll do the reverse so that way they are sitting V in the right direction on the opposite side as well. So continue on adding in 115, 1 8, 1 and 2 and 3 15s into the top of the right angle unit and down. And on to the next one, over and over again. Now that you have one side done, it's time to get over to the opposite side. You can see kind of how this is laying on the wrist. And again, see, I left myself a little bit extra space. I might have to add a couple rows. That's easy because you know how to do it. So what I'm going to do here is coming out the bottom of this last after going in and decorating it. I'm going to go through the right angle weave. You can turn it to the back too if you need to look at it. And I'm just going through the right angle weave here, all the way over till I get to the opposite side here. So I'm not going to do the middle yet. Actually, I'm at the middle, so let's do the middle. And then we'll go over and we'll do the line. Rather than having it be a diagonal line, I'm going to do a V when I get to the third row. And right now we are going to add our pearl. So you will see a little bit of thread. It's up to you. If you want to add a 15 on either side, you can. Or you can go right in here, coming out the top of this one, go into the bottom of the next one. Use your fingers here to just push that pearl down into the center and see how that's going to sit right and nice in there. Go in and grab my next pearl, go into the opposite side and go into the bottom and out through the top there. Once you're there, nice tight pull, and that center row is starting to pull up towards the middle. So I'm going to go through and just keep going down the line, adding in my pearls. Once you get done the second row, it is time to go to our middle row, or our last row, I should say. So what I want to do for the last row, there's options here. You can do it that it's all going in the same direction, basically, that you're creating a diagonal, or you can do it that the seed beads are painted in towards a V towards the pearl. Either way, it doesn't really matter. You just have to establish one. So I'm going to do it so that way it's all going into the interior. So what I need to do is I need to bring my needle and thread down to this bottom right corner. So how am I going to do that? I'm going in here. And remember, we still have to put the clasp on, which is really the star of our bracelet. I'm going to go through the side here. I'm going to go out through the side here. Now, usually I like to come down through the beads that I'm crossing over. I'll get there on the second one. I'm not going to worry about it too much on the first. So 115, 1 8, 3 15s. And now I'm going to go into the opposite corner here and go down through the right-hand side of that box. When I do so, it brings it, you can see now, into that V shape that it's going towards the center. And I really love the monochromatic look of this one here, because these colors that you get in the pearl collections and the seed beads between the earrings and the bracelet, you really can use so many of them mixed and match and for different projects. So really versatile box here for this subscription project. All right, so going in here, then you can see just continuing with that line, going in and adding the single 15 and then your seed beads and creating that nice mixed tone look. The last thing we are going to do after we do this is we get to add this amazing clasp and our crystal there to really make it pop as, again, the star of the show. Continue on adding in your seed beads along the outer edge. All right, once you're done with your bracelet, I just want to show you how pretty this looks and textured on the wrist. Again, if you want to, you could do 3 rows of pearls. You can do just 15s on the sides, completely up to you. I'm going to take my crystal now, and I am going to either using Loctite glue or using E6000, either one works. I'm going to put a nice line of glue down the center. Now you can see the clasp itself already has kind of an edge and a ridge in there, which is great because then the glue is going to adhere really, really well. I'm going to take my Potomac Crystal Long Oval and I am going to glue it down, push it down into the setting, and then let that dry a little bit. When using this, you'll notice that the loops go one way on one side and one way or the other because of the manufacturing process. So I'm going to take out the actual click end or that clasp side. And what I'm going to do with that is start with that one on the side while my clasp dries in here. And then I'll do the other one where we're going to go in on an angle basically into those settings on the opposite side. So I have my last one here that I've done, and I'm coming out the very end. And I'm going to grab one of my pearls here, coming out the very corner there. I'm going to grab a pearl, move that stop bead out of the way. I'm going to go into the first section of my clasp and making sure when you're looking at this that this sits correctly because you need it to go to the top. I'm going to go back through that pearl then and through the 2 beads that lay on row number 1 exterior. From here then you're going to look and see kind of where it lines up. We're going to go with row number 2 here. So row number 2 here, we're going to get our next pearl, go into row number 2, go back down then through pearl number 2. And there's number 2. Now what we're going to do is we are going to go in and basically continue down the line. Now it's going to become tight for the third one. So what we're going to do is we are going to come out the middle of our second bead here, right there. And we are going to simply grab one there and then up through. So some of the pearls will sit just a little bit closer than others, just because of the nature of the design. Back down through the pearl. If you can sew on a button, you can sew on a clasp. Out through the bead, making sure you can see I don't want to go through that starter bead because we used that in a nice bright blue color, so we knew not to include it in with it. There we go. After that, we're into our next pearl. Pearl number 4 into loop number 4. And then once we're done this, we're going to go back and reinforce it all. So we make sure that we have an extra strand of thread going through all of our loops. Down on the end here, going out after the 8s, not the 15 that it really wants to go through. Once you're out there, we've got one more pearl to add. Reinforce, and then we're going to flip over and do the same thing on the opposite side. I'll show you on the opposite side how we're going to go in and make it the easiest to go through the loops along the side. You can use some rings too if you want, but we're going to attach right to the clasp. All right, there we have it. So all we're going to do now is go back down the line, going through and reinforcing, back through these 8s, up through the clasp. And just as you're going through the clasp, make your loop and make sure you go over so that the thread loops through the clasp and down on and over. At this point here too then, once we get done, we'll take off that stop bead or that starter bead, which currently hanging out the back, and we'll tie those thread ends off. So continue on reinforcing, and then we'll flip over and we'll do the 5 pearls on the opposite side. So one side is done and beautiful, and just to show it has that knot along the back, I took off the stop bead. And because I don't have another thread down here, which obviously you could have put on the clasp as you were doing it, but I put on a stop bead on that thread that was left over, and I'm going to take it back basically a couple rows of my right angle weave. Just let that stop bead hang out. I'll take it off, but I'm going to go up here along the right angle weave, get to the center here, and we'll come out the center since that's where my needle and thread is. And we'll get ready to put on our first pearl. So just like the other side, 5 pearls get put on, 1 pearl gets added. And here's what I wanted to show, because this is just rinse and repeat from the opposite side. But to go through this, go through on an angle. That makes it so much easier to put on your clasp. And this side is heavy. So you'll want to put that on there Go into the other one. Make sure you don't have any extra thread showing. Out the other one, get your next pearl on. Make sure that your clasp is sitting facing forward and towards the top. Whether or not you have the lighter one, darker crystal, they are both gorgeous and match so well with the design. So again, here I am along the side going on an angle, because it can be a little bit tricky if you've never worked with this style clasp before. But I don't like to use the jump rings because I like to have it nice and close to the clasp. So certainly you can add jump rings on there, but it's a tiny fit. So it'll be some thin jump rings. Going in here, adding my next pearl. There we go. Into the next one, again on that angle. Then we are just repeating. Going back down through the project. And then once again, reinforcing. Now, like I said, this is a heavy clasp, so it's a substantial bracelet. Because of that, I want to make sure that I have at least a minimum of the 2 strands going through the clasp section. If you can use a third one, that's even better. Get another strand going through there. So here I am on the angle, going up through, reinforcing the ones that are already there. And then I'll add the last 2 to the ends as I come down through and further along the bracelet. After you fully attach the clasp, all you have to do is weave your threaded needle back towards that stop bead, moving it down and tying those thread ends together. I love the look and again that versatility of this bracelet with the gold and silver combo. It has that nice click here. Ready? Click. You have that in, and it's just a really, really pretty, elegant design that you can wear to any party. Thanks so much for joining me in creating this Infinite Pearl bracelet. Remember, lots and lots of options, alternatives, and switches you can make with this design. Again, this is one of our subscription box projects, so if you do want to check that out, look below the video in the description, hit that show more button, it'll get you to there. Show your designs and your colorways also in our Facebook group for beading and jewelry making. We'd love to see you share with the community there. As always, give a little thumbs up. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for more inspirational designs.